Hello, my name is Brant Hunt. That is my channel, simply called Discerning What is True. I've been doing broadcasting of this nature probably for the last couple of years on different subjects. Going to be reading again from Kabbalah and Exodus. This book is written by Zeb ben Shimon Halevi, chapter 37, called Defection. So we're going to get into that right now. Thank you for being here. Today is the 8th day of February 2026. The first verse of Exodus chapter 32 opens with the words, quote, "And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves unto Aaron and said unto him, Rise up, make us a God, which shall go before us," end quote. According to the folklore that runs parallel to the scriptures, the trouble begins among the mixed multitude that had come out of Egypt with the Israelites. These consisted of a variety of people who, for various reasons, wanted to leave that state of life and seek another. The promise of freedom had great appeal, and many Egyptians left their country with the Israelites to escape from the past or find some new kind of future. After 3 months in the desert, the initial enthusiasm and novelty had worn off, while the Israelites at least had some sort of common aim to return to the land promised them. The mixed multitude of inferior habits and motivations tried to, quote, recreate Egypt in the desert. So what's going on here? This is not literal. The Egyptians, what they're talking about is those who are still in the flesh. They have not made heaven within themselves. You see, they're not pursuing that at this point. They are, they're the type of people basically, they'll go along with the crowd, say if there's a majority of people, and then about, 3 months later or 6 months later, something happens and it's not what they see, and they start belly aching about things. Okay. They get frustrated and they don't like what they see. And I'm tired of this, the scenery here. Where's Moses? He's supposed to be the leader. He's disappeared, that kind of thing, And it doesn't take long. People begin to murmur and get louder and louder, such and such, and become a problem because they're spoiled in a lot of ways. So during Moses' absence, the leadership of the people was in the hands of a yet uninitiated Aaron. So see, there it is right there. He hasn't met God. Okay, he hasn't met God. So he's not seeing the big picture here. He's just seeing what's in front of him. Okay, so Aaron has not made heaven within himself. You see, it's impossible to make heaven here on this earth, but you do have, as an individual, as free will, you have the initiative, if you want to make heaven within you. But it's not a easy walk. It's something you have to take seriously day by day. And it takes a lot of patience also on your part, yes, but also you need to be digging. You see, you need to be trying to find the truth out there. You see, wanting to seek things that are deeper. So anyway, so we can see that Aaron, even though he's a lieutenant here, or he's a captain here, or whatever you want to call it, of the ship, but he's not really what I call. He's been trained in some ways, but he has not done the work, while Moses has done the work, you see, and has already met God. And that's why he's there up in the mountain, you see. You do. And when I know that Phil always makes this allegory, not an allegory, but the way he shares it simply is that when you get up on the mountain, it's just, even in the physical world, you see the valleys and everything below you. You see the streams, you see such and such, you see the cars below, such and such. It gives you a different perspective, you see. But if you're in that mist looking up, you don't have that perspective because simply you have not met God, you see. During Moses' absence, the leadership of the people was in the hands of, okay, we're already there. The mixed multitude perceived weaknesses in the temporary rulers. Of course they did. Began to turn their now restless Israelites aside from their covenant at the very moment of its reception, while most Israelites knew that all that was required of them was to wait. A few could not endure the inaction with patience. This trial is often the most hard for many individuals about to take up a spiritual commitment. Having given their word, they believe they are ready to take on anything and everything. When nothing happens for a long time, depth of their verbal commitment or covenant is revealed, and their ability to maintain direction during the periods of waiting without guidance is tested. In Jewish legend, Satan the tester with Jannes, Jannes, and Jambres, Jambres, two students of Balaam, the magician, conjure up before a increasingly disturbed and doubting children of Israel the image of a dead Moses floating on a bier, B-I-E-R, midway between heaven and earth. So let's look at these guys, see if they're in this particular book. I haven't looked this up because I haven't read this chapter. So I'm going to look up these guys. I may have already done this. I don't know. I think I did one of these guys. So I want to look at these guys and find out what is really going on, because these are not the typical players in this particular revealing of this particular book of the Bible that is in Exodus. As far as I can see here, it is not here. No, I don't see it. I don't have my big book here, so I have to come back and look at it later. Okay. All right. So here we go back here. So there are students of Balaam, the magician. Everybody loves a magician, don't they? This symbolism displays the scribe's knowledge of the worlds, the precise location and height of the bier, B-I-E-R, defines to those who know even a little Kabbalistic theory that Jannes and Jambres were working in the world of formation that lies between the worlds of action and creation. When the Israelites saw the mirage, they fell into despair. If their leader had gone, what would become of them in the desert between Egypt and Canaan? Satan, taking full advantage of the situation, worked on the growing disorder among the tribes. Months of work were undermined in days, and the half completed initiation of Sinai was to become more than just threatening. Seeing no sign of Moses or God, Satan openly attempted the strained and now shocked Israelites. In the individual, each satanic attack comes when exaltation, weaknesses, resolution, and only a sharp but subtle push is needed to throw the aspirer off the spiritual path. The magicians represent the inter-tricksters of mischief and fantasy who plague all spiritual exercises. It was at this point that the mixed multitude, exerting their influence as the only cohesive group, you see. In other words, they were working together. There was, they came together, such. It wasn't about a few of them. This was a group, and they had an agenda, so to speak. Began to produce pressure Aaron and elders. The two sorcerers, consider Moses only a rival magician, utilized this force to direct the people's attention to worshiping the gods of the world of formation. Hera, H-U-R, the man who had stood by Moses in the battle against Amalekites, stepped forward and rebuked the people for their gratitude to God, who had done so much for them. He was instantly killed by a now violently aroused collection of the mixed multitude and some Israelites who had been infected by the excitement. So let's look at this guy also. Herd, H-U-R. when I remember these things, but this is when I was a little kid. These are to us as little children. We would we'd be read this stuff in in church or in our Sunday school class. So herd, H-U-R, this makes perfect sense with this whole idea. And this, I'm looking at this particular book here. Means pure and noble. This is from Esther. Sorry, from Exodus 17:10. The understanding. That's what it means. Let me get my other book here. Hold on a second. This is the book I'm reading from here. So this might give me a little bit more here. Yes, it's in here. It's herd, H-U-R, pure, brilliant, noble, liberty, freedom, hollow, subterranean, whole, black. Oh, it's the opposite of that. I'm sorry. So the man who with Aaron held up Moses' hands, that Joshua and the Israelites defeated the Amalekites. That was based on Exodus chapter 17:10 through 13. Herd seem to have been a very influential man and very much trusted and loved by Moses. He is cleansed along with Aaron. When Moses went up to the Mount of God to receive the law, he told the people to go to Aaron and heard if they had any important matters to decide. That's based upon Exodus chapter 34:14. And I'm going to stop there because that's pretty much what I want to. I don't want to go. It's got a long thing here, so we won't do that. But what I'm going to say simply is, yes, this guy had a good. He was who he was. But again, you have to remember these are not characters. This is something else. This is something within. You see. See where we're at. Is at this point the mix. Okay, they're influencing the only into pressure here. Okay, so we're. Having so easily disposed of one leader, the mob then turned upon Aaron, clamoring, quote, "Make us a god, or we will slay thee also," end quote. Aaron, we are told, becoming less concerned with his own life than with preventing the rot going further, sought to stall them when he consented to make a god. In order to gain time so that the people might cool down, he issued instructions for the collection of personal golden ornaments. This plot, Aaron hoped, would make them think twice before making the idol. The meaning of this for the individual is that during such a revolt against a spiritual discipline, an instructor will try to offer set rapid disintegration by various holding actions until the person comes to his aid or senses. I should say senses. In this situation, an individual might be promised some privileges on condition that it is paid for by giving something in return. This follows the law that everything good or evil has to be paid for sooner or later. The fee for what is to be done is often too expensive for the ego. Interesting, isn't it? Think about people with that. You see. Sometimes this happens in people when they get what they want, they go right back to what they were, you see. And I'm guilty of that too. So it's not meaning that I'm any better than they are. And frequently stops the destructive process. In our legend, Aaron's device slowed the revolt down, but did not stop it. So powerful was the flow of dissipating energy. Legend goes on to tell how the menfolk at first sought to take their woman's jewelry so as to avoid personal costs. But this was refused, and so the men reluctantly gave their own vanities to Aaron. This brought time, but not enough, for Moses was still upon the mountain. When the golden ornaments brought from Egypt were thrown into the melting pit, they fused spontaneously into a bull calf. There are various traditions explaining for this. The bull, besides being the symbol of animal vitality, is one of the 4 holy animals that appear in the Bible. It's also one of the ones around the throne, isn't it? And the bull is one of the astrological signs, if I recall correctly. However, have the image of calf indicates appear in the Bible. It's about the word. Okay, so in one of the 4 holy animals that appear in the Bible and symbolize the world of the earth and action. Okay, I think I said that. However, here the image of a calf indicates not only immaturity, but the lack of any contact with the divine world of imagination as a physical representation for the bodily senses to worship. It reveals a spiritual regression, so it's a moving backwards instead of forward. In fact, it's not even standing still; it's moving to the back. You're not progressing at all. Another interpretation is that when Israel had crossed the Red Sea, some Israelites had sensed the divine presence on the throne chariot drawn by the 4 holy creatures above them. However, only the bull, the physical world, was perceived, and therefore the Israelites conclude it must be the God that brought them out of Egypt. Wow. For an individual, this is the equivalent of considering a physical teacher, symbol, or tradition as divinity itself. The commandment, quote, no other gods before me, end quote, safeguards against this tendency in early spiritual work. Legend tells us that when the golden calf appeared, it spontaneously took on life. Symbolically, this is because the people combined will and need projected vitality into it. And so it is lived for them. Here is a common group phenomenon. It is observed that such gods, be they individuals or organizations, take on a charismatic role or life of their own by feeding upon the psyche, that is, vitality given to them. The people, seeing their idol or externalized man's ego infused with such great power, demanded that the elders recognize it as their God. Several elders openly opposed this ignorant view and were killed. 12 prince leaders of the tribes, seeing the fate of those who denied the will of the multitude, joined the surviving elders and did not answer the summons of the mob who wished to confront them. Retreat is sometimes the only option available to a teacher with a disaffected students. Confrontation only increases the ego's sense of itself. That could be true. Yes, I would think that's very true. The way, even with individuals, definitely. There are times when you don't confront people. You just don't. It just doesn't make sense because basically they're not in a listening mood at all. Period. The multitude taking it that all authority was vanquished, that is, in their minds. Then here's a quote: the most common Aunt Sally of spiritual rebellion, is, then proceeded to celebrate the victory by having a orgy around their idol. Most Israelites were confused or frightened by these events, and many were drawn into the celebration either by a willful reaction to the strict discipline of Moses or by will-less acceptance of what was happening. In the course of a few days, the whole camp became affected, so that the attention focused on what was going on at the top of the mountain was forgotten. Such a situation is not unknown to those who, having thrown discipline away, release an accumulated reservoir psychological energy in an orgy of extremely violent acts of self-destruction. Legend says that a viral illness struck the camp, which, like the mad and unordered growth of cancer, penetrated deep into the body and psyche of the Israelites. If it were not cut out in time, then all Israel would be destroyed. And that is the end of the particular chapter here. Now he has he's in this particular, what I'm looking at here, he has also the Hebrew language here with the words here also from, apparently, I guess, a Hebrew and English dictionary. So it's this, he got it down here. It says, this is the Hebrew text. In this linear translation taken from Maggid, M-A-G-I-L, School Bible, it can be seen that Hebrew is more compact than English. Several meanings can sometimes be taken from one root word, and this gives rise to a different interpretation. The result is that the text is not quite as fixed as most translations have us believe. This flexibility allows the scribes to imply different levels of content beyond the obvious. So that's part of the last part here. So I also wanted to share one other thing else I thought I shared. This is the next part, and it's a separation here in this book that I forgot to tell you. In this particular chapter I was reading, this is what they call, before this period of time, is called revolt. So this is what's happening. It's a revolt about, all these things. And naturally, they've forgotten about the whole thing with Moses on the mountain. They were now in another world, so to speak. So that will be it for now for the audio and the video today. And so thank you for being here. Again, this is from the book called Kabbalah and Exodus by Zeb ben Shimon Halevi, chapter 37, called Defection. And today is the 8th day of February 2026. Thank you for your attention, and take care.